We're going to get started. Good evening. Welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. If anybody would like an agenda, I believe they are located right outside the front door. We are going to do the pledge first.
Okay.
Mike, could you lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
I can do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. And we don't have enough counselors to start the meeting, so I'm going to have Patty come up and swear a couple in. Please.
Please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will faithfully discharge to the best of my abilities the duties incumbent upon me as a city councilor of the city of Waterville. Thank you. Congratulations.
Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. Thanks. Next is that came fast, election of council chair. And this is strictly a function of the council, so I will let you guys move forward with the vote.
I'd like to nominate Sid.
Second.
Is there any other nominations for council chair? All in favor of Sidney Mayhew? Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any counselors who feel they have a conflict of interest with any of the votes they'll take tonight? All right, great. Approval of the consent agenda. Could I get a motion for the approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Unfinished business order 199, 2018.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
An order providing for approval of forfeiture.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions?
There was a proposed amendment put in the packet
I see that.
from the city manager.
Correct.
All right.
Well, from me and from the police chief. And of course, the chief talked about this at the last meeting, that he would like to use the money for the fire protocol.
Yep.
The calls that we receive for fires and making sure that our dispatch people are properly trained when the calls come in.
All right, so the proposed amendment is on this last line
Yes, thank you.
where it says that money be appropriated to the Waterville Police Department's drug forfeiture revenue line, and the amendment is to add on to that sentence, and that a sum not to exceed $20,000 be used to purchase a public safety fire protocol software application for the dispatch center. Is there a motion to amend and add that amendment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd like to move the order as amended.
And second.
Is there any discussion? All right, can I get a roll call?
Counselor Morris,
Yes.
Counselor Smith,
Yes.
Counselor Mayhew,
Yes.
Counselor Coelho,
Yes.
Counselor Thomas.
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you.
Moving on to new business, we have Resolution 14, 2019.
A resolution providing for appointing citizens to various boards and committees. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Waterville, acting as municipal officers as follows. Whereas citizens have been solicited to submit applications of interest to fill seats on various boards and committees, and whereas Mayor Isgro has conducted interviews with most applicants, now therefore be it resolved that citizens are appointed to fill vacant seats on various boards and committees as detailed on the attached list.
Move to adopt.
And second.
All in favor? All right.
Is it okay if I go to the podium and call these folks up?
It would be wonderful if you did
Thank
that. Thank you.
And that other mic is here. Is it on now? Now it's off. It's not working. I'm going to the podium. I'm not sure who is in the audience, so as you come up, I'll just kind of make sure that you're here. To the Airport Advisory Committee, Dan Anderson. Can I borrow your pen? Dan, could you just come up to the front here, and we'll do everyone at the same time? Sorry. Brandon Gilly. Thank you. Board of Assessment Review, Eric Dumont. And Dan Anderson. Board of Zoning Appeals, Eric Dumont, Brandon Gilly, Philip Martin. Ethics Committee, Brandon Gilly, Philip Martin, Kim Lane, and Scott McAdoo. Kennebec Sanitary Treatment District Trustees, Percy Monty Smith, Nicholas Champagne, Tyler Mitchell, Planning Board, Bruce White, Kathy Weeks, Paul Lucier, Mark Champagne, Public Library Trustees, Mary Ellis Gibson, Janet Derlin King, Marilyn Jean Bird, TIF Advisory Committee, Shannon Haynes, Jim Nicholson, John O'Donnell. Waterville Housing Authority, Daniel Bernier, Kim Lane, Cynthia Longstaff, it's not here. Voter Registration Appeals Board, Roland Halley. Waterville Sewage District Commission, David Cosgrove. Okay, if you could all please raise your right hands and repeat after me. I state your name. Do solemnly swear. That I will faithfully discharge. To the best of my abilities. The duties incumbent upon me. As a member of the board. To which I have been appointed. Thank you. Congratulations.
Big thank you to everybody who volunteered, and some of you for multiple boards, so thank you very much. And next is Resolution 15, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for authorizing renewal of a special amusement license to VFW Forrest J. Pear, Post 1285, doing business as VFW Forrest J. Pear, Post 1285.
Move to adopt.
And second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Next, Resolution 16, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for authorizing renewal of a special amusement license to VFW Forrest J. Pear, Post 1285, doing business as, didn't I just do this one?
No.
This is 15.
This one should be T.
VFW TJs, yeah.
Thank you. I don't know where mine is. Okay. 16. Yeah, I do. Thank you. Do you have it?
16?
Yeah.
Goes 15 to 17.
I only have
I have-
15, 17.
I have
too.
17
Okay.
too. So 16 is authorizing renewal of a special amusement license to Stephen Reynolds, doing business as TJ's Classic Billiards.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Now moving on to Resolution 17, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for authorizing renewal of a special amusement license to Stephen Reynolds, 17 should
I think we
be,
have to renumber them.
I think I have to renumber them, you're right.
So that one should
7
be 18.
This should be 18. Okay, let me, hold on. So 16 was special amusement permit.
The last
I
one
see.
they approved was,
Okay. So
There it is
17 is
on the-
issuance of a special amusement permit to Eric Willett and Ryan Flaherty, doing business as Waterville Brewing Company.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Sorry about that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Next, Resolution 18, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
A resolution issuance of a victualer's license to Dark Star Restaurant Group, doing business as The Last Unicorn.
Move to adopt.
And second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Resolution 19, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
Second.
All in favor?
A resolution providing for issuance of a liquor license to Dark Star Restaurant Group, doing business as The Last Unicorn.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just, this is a new owner.
It is a new owner, correct?
Right, we want to give him an opportunity to introduce.
Yeah. Are they here tonight? Would you like to come up and give a plug? Would you like to come up and,
Introduce yourself.
yeah. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Hi there.
Hi.
So I'm looking to purchase the Last Unicorn. My name's John Pacuro. Some of you guys might know me. I grew up in town here. Kind of been living elsewhere for a little while, but I own a lot of property in town, and we're looking to continue the fine dining tradition of the Last Unicorn going forward.
Excellent. Well, we're happy to hear that, and thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Yeah, thanks. All in favor? Next, ordinance 20, 2019.
Move to read by title only.
And second.
All in favor?
An ordinance providing for amendment to zoning.
Move to adopt.
Second.
For those in the audience that are wondering, if you don't have the agenda packet with you, this is the Children's Discovery Museum requested the City Council rezone 7 Eustis Parkway to allow the museum to relocate from Augusta to the church property. That's something I know you've already read about in the paper. Is there any discussion on this? All in favor? Wonderful. Next, ordinance 21, 2019.
An ordinance providing for extension of the marijuana moratorium, be it enacted by the Waterville City Council acting as municipal officers, that ordinance number 20, 2017 be amended to extend the term of the ordinance from January 16, 2019 to April 18, 2019.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Michael?
I want to report on behalf of the committee, and I know at least one member is here tonight, maybe more than one. One of the early conclusions the Marijuana Study Committee reached was the fact that the moratorium would end before you folks had a time to consider putting something in place, whatever you decide. So giving an extra 90 days will give you plenty of time to have that opportunity to decide what regulations, if any, you want to put. Otherwise, the moratorium ends in just a couple weeks, and actually it's the 16th. Does it say 18 there? 16. Yep. So the committee's holding its last meeting, I think will be its last meeting next Monday night, and we'll be delivering other recommendations to you after that meeting, but they at least wanted this brought up before the moratorium ends.
I'm just wondering if it might be worth it to extend it 120 days because the state is going to complete its regulations at the end of April. And there might be something that appears in those regulations that we would want to incorporate into our ordinance.
We not adopt those afterwards?
They would override our, if something at the state level would override
Well,
anything in our local.
I don't know what those regulations exactly are going to be, but rather than having the moratorium end 10 days before the state finalizes its regulations, it would seem to make more sense to have it end shortly after the state has finalized its regulations. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think the committee would have any problem with that
So Mike,
extension.
you want to amend this for 120 days, which I think should be the suggestion?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if things are ready before 120, you can always act before then. Just gives a little more.
That's just at the outside.
Yeah,
Things- I mean,
totally understandable.
I'm working on a draft of it right now. I'm going
Yeah.
to get something back to the committee to look at on Monday. I also have probably about 10 questions that'll go along with that, and they're going to have some other work to do as well, but they may be done well before that time.
Yeah. So I'll make that motion to amend for the extension of the moratorium for marijuana for 120 days starting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the amendment?
Move the order as amended.
And second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Good, thank you.
All right, next up is community notes. Community notes is a time where if anybody has something they would like to speak about that was not spoken about already tonight on the agenda, now would be the time to do so. We ask that you just come to the podium, state your name, and tell us where you live and what you have to say.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and the city. My name is Paul Lucier, and I live in Ward 5. My wife and I are builder developers of new housing in Waterville. And in the last 12 years, by the grace of God, we've built 78 homes so far in Waterville and Oakland. Currently, we're exclusively building in Waterville. I'm also a planning board member, again, thank you very much. But here tonight, I'm here as an individual, not a planning board member. I want to make that very, very clear. And so last week, I became aware of some facts that stunned me and concerned me over how favoritism was shown on a permit fee. And I think that the taxpayers expect and are entitled to fair and equal treatment in all things in the city, and especially with permit fees. Specifically, one of our nonprofit institutions that provides a quality service for Waterville residents, as well as those from surrounding communities, received a permit fee reduction. I'm talking a $30,000 permit fee reduction. I'm not criticizing them for asking for the discount, and I'm not judging their worthiness on receiving it. It was their duty to ask, but it was also, I think, our duty of the city to ensure fair and equal treatment, and the taxpayers were let down. Now, on a current remodeling project value of $3.4 million, their permit fee was $3,000, rough and dirty, while another resident in Waterville that did a $430,000 renovation paid virtually the same amount of money for the permit. I won't even get into what it costs for a permit in this city for the new housing that we build. Now, is there anyone in city government that's allowed by charter, ordinance, or policy to arbitrarily give a building permit discounts? I don't think so. And I would urge you to look into the matter and make your findings public, since this violation to our trust was perpetrated on the taxpayers in secret. And please ensure that it doesn't happen again. As you start working on the next year's budget, see how hard it is to come up with $30,000. Now, I don't know if they would give us the money if we went and asked them that it was done in error, but it wouldn't hurt to ask. And that's all I have to say about that. Are there any questions?
Mike, is that something the code enforcement officer can decide?
I'll address his remarks after if there are any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The issue that Mr. Lucier is referring to came in front of me about 2 months ago. We received a request from the Alphon Youth Center regarding their permit fee, which for their project they're currently undergoing was about $30,000. And so they requested a reduced fee, and the code enforcement people brought it to me, and we talked about it, and I said, have we ever done this before, a reduced fee for any other nonprofit? And as it turned out, we did do a reduced fee for the homeless shelter. When they did their add-on back a few years ago, I don't remember exactly how many years, and I said to them, what kind of reduction was it? And they said, well, it was 10% of what the actual permit fee was. So the 10% we also applied, we made a decision, actually it's my decision, to apply that same 10% fee to the Alphon Youth Center's permit. So Mr. Galusier is correct, a $30,000 permit fee became a $3,000 permit fee. Now you can come up with a lot of arguments why this is a good idea or not. I was following what we had established as a precedence, but there's no question. The decision about fees is a council matter. The council's established the fee schedule, so any deviation from that technically should come back here. Did the homeless shelter reduction come back here? I honestly don't know back then. Probably not. We haven't really been able to figure that out. So I take responsibility for that decision for the reduced fee. Their construction is very much in the beginning. If the council wanted to vote tonight to collect the full fee, I'm sure we could do that. I think, though, we should consider some of the community benefit that the city derives from the Alphon Youth Center. I don't think it's fair to compare that use to private enterprise. The Alphon Youth Center provides over $100,000, over 100,000 meals a year to kids, many of whom don't have anything to eat. In addition to that, they built a $1.4 million baseball field, Wrigley Field, Purnell Field, which is going to be a tremendous long-lasting benefit to the city. I don't see those kind of activities coming from the private sector into the millions of dollars a year. So those things factored into our decision. It is ultimately a council decision that I don't question. So I'm glad to answer any questions.
Are we going to be recognized as a donor?
I'm sorry?
Are we going to be recognized as a donor to their project?
That was not discussed. I'm sure we could be.
I would think. It essentially is a donation.
Yeah. The mayor was at the groundbreaking, and so was I. Yeah.
I think this is tough because we're talking about, I get the argument for all that they do. At the same time, taxpayers pay year in, year out, nonstop. I mean, collectively over a lifetime. I guess my question is, and it was kind of like the question I asked the council when we put the bag ban on the ballot, is what is the precedent we're setting, and then what are the parameters? Because if I come in and ask you to give me a 10%, to charge me only 10% of a building permit fee, how do you say no? Because you've already done it.
You're talking about a nonprofit?
Anybody, a taxpayer, anybody. I mean, how do you say, I mean, what are the parameters? I think there needs to be some kind, I think going forward, at the very least, I believe going forward, any kind of deviation needs to come to this council for a discussion would be my recommendation.
That's what I would say, is it just, without digging into this particular instance, there just needs to be a more transparent process moving forward so that people are aware.
Yep.
I certainly don't want people to have the impression that there are, some sort of backroom negotiations going on and this kind of stuff. And I'm sure there would have been plenty of support from the community for giving them a break on there.
Yeah, and I would second that, because I think there has to be a bottom line. The biggest capital word is transparency in this whole issue. I think the communication and the revelation of this to us should have been more apparent. I still think there should be some kind of consideration if the council wants to go back and look at the fee with consideration. That should be still our priority to do that, and our intended duty to do that. So I do understand what Mike is saying to the point of what this nonprofit has done and continues to do. They're very close to me in a lot of different things, and I've had a lot of goings on with this nonprofit, and Purnell Wrigley Field was one of them, which I very much embrace and understand what they have put into the community, which is enormous. But at the same time, we have to be fair and consistent and transparent, and we have to have protocol to follow. And I do agree that we look at this and have further consideration moving forward. So those are my comments on that.
Do we differentiate between one nonprofit versus another? I mean, I look at a place like the homeless shelter. I can sort of, and I don't want to split hairs. We can see that they have a need for something where somebody like the Y, which I have children that attend, I pay for services there. There are many people in this audience who, kids play basketball with my kids or football. I know the amount of money that we put into that facility out of our own pockets. Like you said, transparency is important. I'm not one to go backwards. I mean, we've done what we've done. To me, it's open and shut at this point. But in a time where we have residents that are worried about what other nonprofits in this town and the kind of reach that they have, when something like this pops up, it gives them reason to think, reason to pause. Where is our money going? Some of it to people that can obviously afford to pay that $30,000 fee if they really had to. If you're putting $4.5 million into a project, the extra 30 grand is not really much of a consideration. I mean, that'd just be my thing.
And I would make one more point, Mike, that, this is a facility that's used by all the surrounding communities too. And there are a lot of cases where Waterville taxpayers are subsidizing services that people from surrounding communities are using. So, I don't know, maybe there could have been a discussion in surrounding towns for us to split this fee, the permit fee, instead of Waterville bearing all of the burdens.
Well, for the longest time, Winslow, Fairfield, Oakland all contributed an annual amount to the Alpha Youth Center. I don't know if they all three are still doing it. Waterville stopped its annual contribution 15 years ago, but before that, we were contributing a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars every year. That stopped in 2002, 2003. Other towns continued doing it, which was a big criticism back then. Why isn't Waterville contributing? Fairfield, Oakland, Winslow are. I don't know if all three still are.
Is their facility tax exempt? Do they pay property taxes on their facility, or is it tax exempt?
No, tax exempt. Yeah, yeah.
I think the only perspective I'd put on it is I know that this year the police chief's going to present us with a budget that includes 3 new cruisers for $30,000 apiece, and when I cut one, I'm going to be told that we can't afford to cut one, and my response is going to be, well, we could have had, I can tell you where the 30 grand for that cruiser went.
I mean, I agree. I think we have the ability to have that conversation, and I think that we absolutely should, to get that feedback. I mean, it all starts here, and every dollar that we give away is a dollar that we have to cut somewhere else, and if we don't have to. These things add up, and these are the types of things that we need to correct in order to not have ballooned increase.
Yeah, well, as I said near the beginning of my remarks, that decision should have come here. I'm sorry it didn't. I thought the past precedent was enough to carry it forward, but for something this big, no, it shouldn't. It should have come here.
I see we have some folks in the audience that want to come up. If you could want to just, Mike, you can probably sit down. And if people want to come up to the podium, I would just ask you to come to the podium and make your comment. But I would ask you to keep it within the...
Paul Lucer again, really short. I'd just like to remind you all that Waterville is also a nonprofit organization. We don't break even every year. We're going in the hole. That's why we're bonding so much. If we're going to be basing the merit of projects for waiving permit fees, then what about those projects that will pay tax dollars year after year after year. It just doesn't seem right. I understand the point, but there should be fair and equal treatment, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lucier.
Julian Payne, Ward 5. I understand they do a lot of good programs, but one of the issues of nonprofits is when you're selling a building permit, it's the one opportunity you do have to get a payment. And once that's gone, it's that part of it's over. The Waterville Homeless Shelter is very different to an institution that's building $4 million. A homeless shelter is very needed in the community, and it has very, very little funds. It wasn't a 10% reduction they got. From my math calculation, they only paid 10% of the entire building permit. So they got a 90% reduction. And I do hope that if the council votes not to at least collect the extra $30,000 that come budget season, we're not asking Colby for police cruisers, because I don't really think it's fair to give X amount, 30,000 off to another nonprofit and then start screaming that Colby needs to buy us a police cruiser. And I think that the council has an opportunity to collect the 30,000, and if they don't, the community can always write to the institution as well and ask them to return it. So thank you very much.
Mike, where are we legally on this at this point? Legally, we gave them a waiver.
Correct.
Do we have any, I mean, other than asking them to pay the permit fee at this point, do we have any legal recourse to make them pay the permit fee?
Oh, I think so, if the council chose to vote that way.
Mrs. Weeks.
Kathy Weeks, Ward 1. I agree with Jay about the homeless shelter was a bit different, but the question I have now is, what other permits have this happened to undercover? And that's what it was undercover. The Alphon Center is not lacking money. I am sure the Alphon Foundation would subsidize anything that that institution would do. I really think we need to have an outside audit come in and look at all the building permits, because if this happened with 2, what else has happened that the council has not recognized in the past? My other question is the Olympic size, everything on Colby Hill now. Did a permit have to be issued for that?
Yeah, we made almost $300,000 from those permits.
And is that calculation right?
Yes.
Okay, because I know people have been asking that question too. So I really would like the council to consider having an auditor come in and looking at all the building permits at this point, because obviously there is a darkness about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
I mean, certainly this isn't how I would want to find out about something like this, and I also don't want to blow it out of proportion, but I also don't like this implication that there's a lot of dark backroom things going on here. I think the city manager probably realizes he made a mistake about not bringing this in front of the council at this point. But this idea that there's some sort of scheming going on behind the scenes to try to hide things from the taxpayers, I just want to, as somebody who's been in on lots and lots of these meetings over the years, I really want to dispel that idea. You know, and there is an audit every year of the city's budget, not necessarily every fee that's charged, but most of these things are very transparent. And so, you know, I just want to be careful about going down this slippery slope of accusing the city manager of doing something nefarious when it was well-intentioned, honest mistake, is what it sounds like.
I think that's where just going forward, bringing in, just making sure it comes to the council,
Yeah,
solves that problem.
can tell you without any hesitation, in the 15 years I've been here, these are the only 2 permit fees that have ever come in front of me: homeless shelter, Alphon Youth Center. No others that I know of. Absolutely none, that I know of.
Thank you, Mike. Ms. Raymond.
Paula Raymond from Ward 7, and because we've brought up the idea of permits for buildings, it's been a concern I've had for a few years. You know that I'm a member of the South End Neighborhood Association, and part of my work is with the Quality of Life Committee. And one of our greatest concerns are the rental properties, the property owners who rent properties. And 2 seasons ago, we found 9 buildings that were being renovated quite seriously with plumbing and heating and all of that kind of thing. And out of the 9, only 1 had a permit. And out of the 1 that had a permit, out of the 9, 1 told me, I spoke with the landlord myself, and he said, well, he was told by one of the CEOs that because he's always done a good job, he didn't need to have a permit. So this winter, I happened to be driving by on Summer Street, and I learned that there was a gentleman out of New Hampshire or Vermont buying properties on Summer Street. He has 1, he's wanting to buy 4 more. He doesn't have a permit, and he's gutting out the building and getting it ready for renovations. So again, I try to do things quietly. I don't want to be public about stuff like that. I hate airing our difficulties in public. So I had a really nice conversation with him, and I said, would you please be sure to get a permit, because I believe it's in our maintenance. It's our laws. And I said, I believe it's only $35 for something like this, so it's not expensive. He wants to buy 4 more properties in that same area, 4 more buildings, and he plans, and he shared everything he wanted to do, and everything he wanted to do, because he is a property owner that plans to rent, it's going to require a permit. And so now we're looking at, if you add 5 plus the 9 minus the 1, you're looking at 13 properties without a permit. At $35 a permit, it's not a lot of money, but it's our money that should be coming in. And so again, I would question what's going on. I actually took the time to flip through, and I got just a bunch of excuses as to why they weren't available as far as, and why they weren't putting them up in their windows. That's another thing I'm being told, that they're being given permits, but they don't have to put them up in their windows. So when I spoke with this gentleman, I said, would you, just out of courtesy for those of us driving by, put it in your window for us? So I'm trying to cover those bases quietly among the people that we're working with. And I don't know, I haven't gone by yet to see if he has a permit. I got his name, his number. I'm going to send him the maintenance expectations that we have in the city. So we're trying to be proactive. We're not trying to cause trouble. But there's something going on where somebody can be actually told, I do a good job on all my properties, and I don't need a permit. And then 8 others didn't have a permit visible, and I was told they don't have to have them visible. So, but then there was nothing in the books to prove that they had them either. So just something to and I feel bad about having to say this way.
I don't think you should
But
feel bad. I
well,
think you're telling us something that
I
needs
really
to be
don't
told.
like
And
this format, quite
Yeah, sure.
honestly, as you can hear.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with it.
have you reported any of that to the? Have you
I
gone to
went
the code enforcement or
CEO,
to see
I
Mike?
did. I spoke to both of them, and yeah, I did. And I even got a copy of a permit. We put void on it so that I could bring it to people to show them this is what it looks like. We do take the time to present ourselves in a proactive way. But right now, I'm looking at 5 buildings.
So Paula, what was code enforcement's response?
I told you.
Completely, I mean, they're
They just,
advocating that.
what happened was I went to see them. I said, there's 9 buildings. We found that 1 had a permit. The next response was, they must be in the files. I didn't want to go that far to say, can I go in the files? It just seemed that I was crossing a barrier I shouldn't be crossing a line, because then I'm questioning their integrity.
Right.
And I don't want to be that. I want to work with them, and I want them to see us as a positive force. And that's tricky. And when you're just little Paula Raymond in Waterville on the south end, it's kind of rugged, So it's not a comfortable position to be in when you can see that maybe it's not happening. So,
Mike.
and it's not happening right now because the guy who's doing the work on the Summer Street one does not have a permit that I know of today. But I'll be going by tomorrow, and I'll be writing to him personally saying, it's not in the window yet, is there a reason? Again, trying to work proactively with him, sending him the maintenance piece. But I have to let him know now that I've done this, that I've at least brought it to the city council.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We appreciate you bringing it forth. Mike, can you do an investigation with that with code enforcement?
Yes, yeah, I think the
Please.
best thing is if, Paula, you can come in, I'll sit in with you when you meet with the code enforcement people, And of course, all of the records are public, so anybody can look at
And that's why it
anything.
was comfortable for me to go when I did 2 seasons ago to look for the 9 buildings that were being renovated at the time.
Yep.
And I only found one that had even a permit. And then there was nothing, and they were the only ones that had it posted in their window.
Just let me know when you want to come in, and I'll sit in with you. Every record, public permit, building permit is public record.
Right. I don't intend on going back right now because that's hindsight, and
That's
they're all
in the-
done.
okay, all right.
I mean, there's no point in going back, they're all done.
Yeah, okay.
Those 9 buildings. The 5 that I'm concerned about, and the 4 he hasn't purchased yet. And what happens is.
Well, just
he
send me
doesn't
the
pur-
list, and
Well,
I'll-
I will, but he doesn't purchase them, like, there's not a for sale sign, and he purchases them so that we can know that that's been purchased. What he does, which is perfectly legal to do, people do it all the time, he writes to people who own the property, and then he asks if they're interested in selling. So it's very quietly done, which is okay.
Right, but the city knows it.
But the city knows, you know, but again, do they check all of those as well? That's a big project to do, to be checking on all these sales every day.
Plus, I don't think we assume because there's a sale, there's major construction going on. So I think I mean, the
Exactly.
permit issue is
Right.
completely separate. We should be charging for permits for everybody, regardless of whether we think their work is good or not, I assume. Is that
So this guy's from Winslow, he moved out of state, but he has an LLC, and he's building a side business, you know, we have no problem with any of that. I know we talked about not converting single-family homes into 2s and 3s, but
We're
that's
still
not-
talking about that.
But that's not on the books yet, that's
Yeah,
not
right.
changed yet.
Yeah.
So, but I mentioned it to him, that we are concerned in the neighborhood. And I also told him, I said, we're really excited about him doing some good things. And that's what we want to see. We even offered to help clean up his yard in the spring, which is our cleanup time. So we're trying again to be proactive as the South End Neighborhood Association through the Quality of Life Committee. So he's the only gentleman I'm concerned about right now, that he doesn't have that permit that I know of yet, but I can let you know tomorrow because I'll be
Yeah.
driving by, and I will let you know, Mike, whether he has one or not.
Good.
And I know that there are some, if they're not doing any kind of big renovations, even as property owners who are renting, you don't have to get a permit if you're just slapping up paint and cleaning
Right.
up. You don't have to do that.
That's
But
right.
he's gutted out walls, he's putting in new plumbing, he's taken down kitchens, and, yeah, so that's serious stuff that, to me, would require electrical wiring. He's doing all of that.
Yep,
You
yep.
know, and plans to do that with the others because he's seen them all, and he knows what he needs to do in them.
Yeah, please, don't
So-
hesitate to contact me about it.
Well, again, CEOs, that's their job, so I would go to them. I hate to step over, you know, people's, I hate
If
to
you're
cross the
comfortable with
line.
going to them, that is the best way to get your answer.
To go to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it didn't work.
well, then come to me.
Okay, all right. So anyway, without belaboring it
Yeah,
any further.
that's exactly
It's a
what I
concern we
suggest.
have in our community. and
That's
it's
what I
Ward
suggest, Paula,
7.
which, I think you should take Mike's offer and go to him and have a 3-way conversation.
Right.
And if need be, he needs to come to us afterwards if need be.
I appreciate it, Mike. Very good.
Anybody else for community notes? You're not here to talk about building permit fees, are you?
Just one, Mark Andre, just one question. Mike, the precedent you mentioned with the homeless shelter, what year was that?
Like I said during my remarks, I don't remember exactly what year.
Roughly, was it 10 years ago, or?
That was built while I was on the council.
It was regarding the second floor conversion, so I don't think it was quite as long ago as 10 years.
Okay, so 8, 9, but roughly between then and now, about how many building permits have been issued to nonprofits?
You know,
Roughly, 100, 200?
I don't think anybody could guess that off the top of their head, Mark.
I have no idea.
The point
Quite a
is,
bit,
the
yeah.
point I'm making is the precedent is that you're not the nonprofits are paying the going rate.
Yes.
That's
Correct.
the precedent.
Correct.
And it was a
Bars.
point Eric Thomas made, and there's a lot of churches in the community that do a lot for the community also. They haven't gotten breaks on the permits, and I would urge the council to not grant those breaks because you can't differentiate between those nonprofits. But
Thank you. Is there anybody else for community notes?
I'm not there to talk about that issue.
Great.
I'm Scott McAdoo, Ward 7, but I'm here with on behalf of the Essential Meeting 4th of July, just to let you know that we're going to be kicking off our fundraising season. We have, the dates of these haven't been set yet, but our 3-on-3 tournament, basketball tournament we have. But we do have a save the date. April 27th is going to be our annual dance and silent auction. I'll have more with you on that, but we're looking. It hasn't been set, the committee hasn't put it together yet, which is basically me. But I'm looking this year to go with a theme, and just to let you give you a hint of what the theme is. Like I said, it's not set in stone, but let's put it this way: get out your leggings and get your big hair ready, and start listening to the hair bands, because I'm thinking of doing a Back to the 80s theme this year for our annual dance and silent auction. So
All right.
I'll have hopefully have more to come when we start setting more stuff in stone. But it's gonna be a fun night. It's one of our biggest fundraisers.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Beaufil.
Hello, Phil Beaufil, Ward 2. I just want to come and let the council know that I am the president of Habitat for Humanity Waterville. And this Saturday we had Baggy, Elena, and Lydia receive the key for their home. Family, they spent the New Year's in their new house, completely built by the help of all the volunteers and of the community. A lot of people coming together, doing excellent work. You know, Mike was a big help and continues to be a really big help. We're looking to build our new home. We're looking in the community. We're looking to get, some tax money for the city. Those people are going to be paying taxes for a lot of years. So if we can build many homes, we want to do that. And we really appreciate the help that the city has provided us. Mike has been instrumental in that, and we really appreciate it and everything that the city council has done for us. And we're looking for volunteers always. If you know some people who have building experience or no experience at all, we always happy to have people come and help us do that. So come see us, check us on our website, and we would love to have you give us a hand again. Thank you.
Thank you,
Great,
Phil.
thanks, Phil. Anybody else for community notes?
I have one.
Okay.
I will be remiss if I get in trouble if I don't talk about this. So Cub Scout Pack 436, which is the only Cub Scout pack here in Waterville, are hosting our first annual spaghetti dinner, bake sale, and pie auction on January 12th, so a couple Saturdays from now, over at the Methodist Church on Pleasant Street. It's from 5 to 7. It's $5. It's going to be a good time. Lots of I know Bobby and Rachel from Sailor Tea are doing the cooking for the pasta and things of that nature, and we've got a lot of good donations from local places for the bake sale and the auction. So again, $5. This really goes to help support a lot of the activities that the kids have got going on. I know this year we're going to the Museum of Science, doing that at the museum, and we're going to do some winter camping out in Bombazine, so this kind of helps subsidize some of those events that we have going on. So the Patriots don't play that day, so that was a concern. They play on Sunday at 1 o'clock, so that's great. So
What
please
day is that
come out.
again, just to repeat?
This is Saturday, January 12th.
Great.
So a couple Saturdays from now, so.
Thank
I have
you.
tickets available, so I have them with me, so if anybody would like one, $5.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, manager's report.
Yes, the only thing I wanted to bring up was the list of committee openings. I sent this one sheet to you. So with, 3 people coming off the council, 3 or 4, it's created a number of openings, so please let me know. Don't need to know tonight. But as you think about how you want to get involved, whether it's the TIF committee, solid waste committee, finance, whatever, let me know, and we'll sort this thing out.
All right. What else?
That was it.
That's it.
That's it.
I get a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Adjourn.